there is a fixed set of stop losses for each and every day. For example, for Nifty, it's 1%. So if I know that there is a time and place for leverage, and that time and place is very individualistic.
So if you had someone to guide you when you first, came to this field, how would you guide somebody? What would you tell them to do? What would you tell them to read up and study about before they actually commit to, trading in the markets with their real hard-earned money that I've saved up probably for a while? Just to start off on a simple light note, how's everything going? How's your life going besides trading, and how's just everything?
Yes, man. I mean, I couldn't have imagined a better life. Always grateful to whatever I have right now. And I feel that, the ability to do what you love without worrying too much about anything, that itself is a gift. So
Absolutely.
I've been blessed with that. I've been doing what I love, and you can't ask more.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. This has been something that's a long time coming. We've been wanting to
It's
do a
okay. Like I think I
podcast.
cancelled it like multiple times, so this
Yeah,
had to
no,
happen.
that's okay. That's okay. There was that one time where we were going to do it on a Saturday, and then it was then trading shuru ho gaya tha. Then
Yeah.
informed last minute. So it's just this and that. But honestly, I'm just glad that we have you on now, because all of us at AlgoTest really look up to your style of trading. Even though most of us are just algo traders, we really look up to the way you do things and the way you're able to generate the returns for yourself with the risk you take as well. So are you also doing other things besides trading at the moment, or is trading pretty much just a full-time thing?
I've been building certain algorithms, and we've been deploying algorithms for certain institutions, and uh, on and off, like I've been conducting my mentorship sessions as well. But
Got it.
that's about it. Apart from that, pretty bland life.
Got it. Got it. Your mentorship, I've heard a little bit about from just other people, because you don't really talk about your mentorship too much as far as I've seen. Is there a reason
I
for that?
try to avoid it. I try to avoid it because mass पे ये mentorship की बात ना गए तो क्या हो जाता है? It attracts the wrong kind of people.
Correct.
I have a certain criteria for the people to join here. I don't teach the basics. I teach only the level of things that I do on a daily basis.
Right.
So it requires a certain amount of capital, because the kind of trading that I do, it's not for everyone, right? Like minimum 10-15 lakh to hona chahiye. But
Correct.
if I start talking about the mentorship, like even people with 1 lakh, 2 lakh capital will also join. And they won't be, honestly speaking, they won't benefit from it.
Yeah, it's not enough
So
money to
that's the
make
reason.
adjustments and trade the way you trade, right?
Yeah. And I can only talk about the things that I practice, right? So that's the problem with the entire trading community. Like most of the
Correct.
guys here are just preachers and not practitioners.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I
Correct.
can only preach about what I practice, and I try to keep it that way. And that's the reason I generally don't talk about my mentorship programs on Twitter, or like I don't promote it, or even when I go to someone else's spaces or like podcasts, I try to not talk about it. But
Right.
somehow like word of mouth spreads, and like people are like when is your next batch and all that, and it happens. But I try to keep that criteria always constant. मतलब minimum इतना cap होना चाहिए. Minimum you should have this much amount of experience trading options, and you should be able to give the screen time. ऐसा कोई scheme है ही नहीं कि you can spend 15-20 minutes a day and you can make X amount of returns. Nothing of that sort.
No, that's true, man. And the fact that you don't have to market this and yet people know about it, I think it's a testament to the course itself and what you do and how people look up to that. So kudos for that, man. I'm so glad people don't like there's so much negative publicity these days with Furuz and this and that, and rightly so. But I think your work honestly speaks for itself. But if I'm not wrong,
The thing is, when there is so much of negativity, that's when the positivity gets its value, right?
correct, correct,
So
absolutely.
it's good that like all this negativity is around, so that actual genuine people and people who are actually doing good, their names come up to the surface. So that's
Yeah.
in a way good.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I really agree. It's just difficult for new people to sort of find out what information to trust, but we'll get to that. If I'm not wrong, you used to do a podcast with Shreyas. It's been a while since I spoke to Shreyas also, but I think he's not really trading much these days, as per his Twitter. Are you guys in touch?
Yeah, we are in touch. We always like have these calls once in a while, and we are on text messages भी exchange होते रहते हैं. But he took over his family business.
Right.
It's a
Right.
well-established business, and it's a sizable business, and most of his time is spent there. And
Ah,
probably it's a smart decision for him, because he has always been very rational about things,
right.
and he one of the very few guys like who considered trading as a business. So
Yeah.
his rationale is now the ROI and the risk trading, the risk of a lot of different kinds of risks have surfaced in this trading regime. So it's
Yeah.
better that I look into my own family venture. So very smart of him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's a very, very knowledgeable guy. Why did you guys stop your podcast though? That was actually pretty interesting. I think you had Mr. IT Jagan also, which we have also had him on our podcast. So why did you guys stop that?
One is time constraint, and the second thing is we started growing out of it. Probably we should start doing it again, because even now, like, I get a lot of messages saying that, bro, like, collaborate with Shreyas and start doing those podcasts again. But again, since Shreyas has drifted away from trading and he's taking care of family business, it's not fair on my part to ask him, come, let's do a podcast about trading.
Right, right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So does he not trade at all these days, or is it just jab man kare?
As far as I know, I think he has completely stopped intraday, but he takes some amount of minute
Position.
positional exposure. So,
Understood. Understood. Well,
as
that's
far
a
as I know,
great.
I'm not too sure.
Right. That's a great segue into one of the questions I wanted to ask you, man. Like, if you're going to talk about your trading style, everybody knows about your intraday stuff, but can you break
Mhm.
it down for me? Everything you do in terms of, okay, so you have an intraday trading stuff that you do. Is it discretionary completely? I also understand you have some algorithms that you run along with your team. And then I also wanted to ask, are you also running any positional strategies or something like that? Just walk us through it, man. Walk us through your framework.
What I do discretionarily on intraday trading, pretty much everyone knows, because there are tons of live trading videos. And even yesterday, my live trading video with Mr. Vivek Bajaj got aired, and everybody understands like what I do. Basically, I try to collect data from both the sides and with some amount of discretionary price action decisions.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a breakout or breakdown, I try to have a biased structure where like my calls are slightly dominant than the puts in case of a breakdown, and my puts slightly dominant than the calls in case of a breakout, and stuff like that. But apart from that, it's mostly short gamma stuff. Try to collect data as much as possible, and after 2:30 I kind of scalp non-directional तरीके से मैं scalp करना try करता हूँ. And 3 o'clock के बाद some super over kind of this thing where quick in and out kind of trades. Uh, Algos, I have directional, non-directional, and I have mean reversion algos as well. Basically, when we run algorithms, we don't know when one stops working. But
Correct.
when I'm trading discretionarily, I can continue to trade the exact same kind of system with a little bit of tweaks, because I'm right in front of the markets. I know what regime shift is happening, what dynamics are changing, what needs to be tweaked based on my own last week of performance, yesterday's performance, and depending upon like how the price movement and how the flows change in the markets. But when it comes to the algorithms, usually uh, the cycle of this iteration is little longer, because you have to let that algo or that particular system run its course.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot tweak
Yeah.
it in between. Either you have to know that, oh, there is some sort of a structural change that's happening in the markets that prompts you to tweak that system, or you need that system hit its whatever the historical drawdown or something.
Drawdown.
At
Right.
that point, you cannot be tweaking those systems. So that's why when we run algorithms, we make sure that it's not a single algorithm. We are not betting our entire money on one particular system, but a combination of systems which
Yeah.
have little to no correlation.
Got it. Got
So
it.
in that case, even if one stops working, the other things will kind of maintain so that the ship sails.
Right.
So
So I
that's
think
why
what
I have,
you're sorry, go ahead.
sorry,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
that's why like I have a combination of trend following, a mean reversion, a pure delta neutral system, and a pure short gamma system. And we have some systems which capture the spikes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
most of these systems are intraday based.
Right.
And positional wise, again, like positional wise, we just try to harvest VRP, and we have some sort of trend following systems on positional as well. But generally, it's very hard for anyone to showcase their positional stuff, because so many things happen,
Yeah.
and it will be taken in conjunction with intraday trades as well.
Correct.
For example, let's say like I have a non-directional trade positionally. Like let's say I have a monthly iron condor or a monthly Ironfly, and suddenly there's a 2% gap down on an
Gap up.
intraday base, and
Yeah.
suddenly there's a VIX rise. So it prompts the walls would be spiking on weekly options as well. So in conjuncture to the tree trunk kind of a trade on monthlies, I take a weekly position as well, and then also I have a lot of opportunities that open up whenever there's a huge gap up or a gap down on an intraday basis.
Understood.
So even if you try to explain your positional book, it gets too confusing for someone who tries to learn options. Even an intermediate guy, he gets lost.
Right, right. So the interesting thing that I've noted in everything that you said right now is when you're doing your discretionary trading intraday, what I took away from that was that the feedback loop, the feedback mechanism is really quick. So you're able to iterate much faster versus a system where you have to let it play out. Correct me if I'm
Think of
wrong.
it this way, Ariman. Think of it this way: like you are playing a test match, and you have been batting since day one, and you're
Correct,
on the pitch.
correct.
Now you understand the pitch so well. You understand how it's gonna bounce, how it's gonna spin, where are the rough patches on the pitch. You understand it so well.
Yeah,
And let's say like an equally good batsman sitting in the pavilion, he won't be having the same kind of intricate details about the pitch.
makes sense.
It's exactly the same thing. Like I'm not saying that an algo trader is either inferior or superior to a discretionary trader, but since a discretionary trader is always in front of the markets, he's one with the markets. He understands whatever changes that are happening in the markets in real time. So that
Right,
feedback loop, as you said, it's pretty short. It's
right,
pretty quick.
right,
So that
right.
iteration, that entire process of iteration, it's so quick. You can constantly dynamically adjust to changing dynamics.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, do you use your experience via screen time to build systems that are algorithms accordingly? Like you have an allocation to algos, right? So, do you use your experience screen time wise to translate into those algos, or are those supposed to be completely different? Sort of call it in hedge, call it just uncorrelated to what you do discretionary wise. Are they different or still along the same lines?
No, they are completely different, but most of the rules that the systems are built around, those rules are just purely based on the observation.
Got it.
Because let's say, like these spikes or the injections, like the FinTwit likes to call, so these are becoming more frequent lately. Right now, if I
Correct.
have to develop a system to capture those erratic spikes, then I can't be statistically looking at the data of 2021 and 2022 and try to backtest and now come to the conclusion.
Right.
This
Right.
idea or the rule around which I need to develop a system that needs to be based on my own real-time market observation.
Right.
Correct. Most of the rules are based on the market observation. We just try to backtest and see that, okay, does it work or not?
Right. Right.
Intuitively, I know that it is going to work because दो चीजें, especially expiry day में दो चीजें हैं. One is the part dependency.
Right.
Like even if you short an option at 10 rupees, most 99% of the time the 10 rupees will go to zero.
Zero. Yeah.
But what's the part dependency of 10 going to zero? One is
Yeah.
directly 10 से linearly zero जा सकता है, or 10 can go to
Spike.
20
Spike.
and then go to zero, or it can go to 10 to 50, 50 to 20, 20 to 50 again, 50 to 60, 60 to again 100 and 100 to zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
These part dependencies. Now, how do you handle these part dependencies? By maintaining your risk reward.
Right. Right.
And multiple entries and risk reward आप संभल लोगे, so you can handle all kinds of part dependencies. But one thing that the algos don't provide you over discretionary trading is the smoothness of the MTM curve. MTM में fluctuations रहता है, and
Yeah.
as a human being, you are prone to the emotional roller coaster because of the MTM fluctuations. But
Yeah.
algos to algos. As long as your risk parameters are fixed, as long as your position sizing module is fixed, as long as your war is fixed, I don't think there is much for a discretionary trader to do when you're deploying the algos. But to answer your question short, most of these systems that we have developed, they are based out of our own observations.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense, man. That's a very knowledgeable answer, I'd say. I think there's a lot of insight to unpack there. But I'm just going to dig in a little bit more to your trading and specifically, what is the kind of risk that you take on? And I understand that you change your risk on the basis of your MTM and how it's fluctuating. Like you said, it's a human emotion. But if I were to put some numbers, some method onto it, what is the maximum leverage that you use? And you talk about risk-adjusted returns a lot, and that's a concept that we love to follow here as well. So what is the maximum leverage or the notional exposure that you like to take on when you're trading?
Again, the notional exposure, it varies throughout the day. All right, it's not the same because when at the starting of the day my notional exposure is very minimum. Like I trade at 1x or 2x max.
Right.
मतलब to put it simply, 10 लाख पे मेरा एक लॉट पंच होता है या दो लॉट पंच होता है.
Got it. Got it.
As the day progresses, depending upon the price action, depending upon how the walls are behaving, and depending upon the overall day itself, and depending upon the index, because you cannot be trading the same way on Nifty as you
All
trade on mid.
indices. Correct. Correct.
And you cannot be, you cannot be slinging in the same kind of size on mid cap as you do it on Sensex.
Absolutely.
Every index has its own features, its own pitfalls, its own advantages as well. So you have to tweak your position size throughout the day. And now, when you build that MTM cushion, now you have an advantage to size up, to level up. Right? It's just like how you pyramid your positions in a breakout trade or in a stock trade. Like as the stock moves up, you start adding your positions, right? That's what pyramiding is.
Right.
Similarly, the position size in an intraday option selling can also be pyramided, depending upon multiple factors. Let's say like if you're a pure price action trader. Now let's say there's a breakout. What do you do? Like you don't go all in because that breakout might be fake out.
A fake out.
It might be a fake breakout. Now, what do? Like you add a small amount of size and wait for the confirmation. Now, if the market shows a lot of strength, then you add size into the strength.
Right.
Or if the market shows some strength and comes back to retest here, retest pe ek aur quantity add hota hai.
Right. Right. Right.
And now over on top of that, we have multiple strikes. Like we have, the probability of this strike going to zero is higher. Now, instead of shorting an ATM of just 1,000 quantity, I can short 2,000 quantity of OTM if my margin permits.
Right.
Let's say my margin is like 80% blocked. I have only 20% side. I mean, I have only 20% left in my margin, but I want to capitalize the most of this move. So I'll short an OTM.
Right. Okay.
So all these things, like, it has to be looked from a holistic perspective.
Right. 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 But do you have any specific, this is the maximum leverage I will take no matter what, or is your risk on the basis of your max MTM loss for the day? Is that how you read?
Ariman, first thing is like most of the people, when they hear the word leverage, their mind suddenly goes to prop leverage. They don't understand that options themselves are levered instruments.
Right. Right. Right.
They don't understand that. And once we buy the OTM hedges, the leverage even significantly goes up.
Yeah. Yeah.
When somebody shorts an option at 1.5 lakhs or 2 lakh rupees per lot, it means that they're inherently 5x levered.
4x, yeah, exactly.
4x 5x levered है.
Yeah.
And उसके ऊपर वो लोग OTM options buy करके थोड़ा extra, मतलब वो जो war का benefit लेते हैं, on top of that they'll be levered 10x.
Exactly. And they think कि margin कम लग रहा है तो हमारा max loss भी इतना ही होगा. That's a big misconception, especially newbies have. But then they don't realize, well, it might cost you a lakh.
The word leverage, even some of the good traders, like they think that when they ask me leverage, I say that I use 4x 5x leverage, जो भी exchange allow करता है. But then they're like, no. When I say leverage, it's prop leverage. I'm like, bro, prop leverage is over on top of. It's like stacking so much of leverage. Right. If it goes in your favor, yes, you make big. But if it goes against you lose big.
Big price to pay.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly. So you base most of your risk every single day on the basis of your MTM. Is that how you do it? Okay, this is my max. For example, I'll take a 2 lakh stop for the day, and then after that, I'm not making any adjustments. I'm not doing anything else. Yes, something on those lines. Let's say like there is a fixed set of stop losses for each and every day. For example, for Nifty, it's 1%. So if any moment I hit 1% loss on that particular day, I close it. Right. I understand that even after me hitting that loss limit, there's always some options which are practically free. Right. Not theoretically, but practically free. Right. Because those options are being bought as hedges by someone. So I can go and short those options. But I don't do that because my risk appetite is met. It's done for the day. Right? Okay. It's done for the day because it's not like the way I trade is not like यहाँ पे entry, यहाँ पे stop loss, यहाँ पे target. Right. Right. Like I constantly firefight, I constantly adjust, I constantly try to tune to the markets, try to be in sync with the markets as much as possible. But even after that, if my risk appetite is being met, then something is not right. Either I'm not in sync with the markets or the markets are not too conducive for the kind of trading that I do, or it's the combination of both. In both the cases, it doesn't serve me well to argue with the markets and being adamant. I have to cut my position at one particular point. And
How do I come up with 1% or 0.5%? Again, it depends on your average winners, because some people, let's say like I'm trading with, let's say my base, my one of my accounts is 1.52 CR, whatever जो भी
Yeah.
है. तो उस size पे मेरे को 1% का risk in absolute terms, I feel that it's okay. But let's say
Right.
somebody is trading 20 lakhs, he wants to grow the account quickly. He wants to aggressively compound the account. So he cannot be taking just 1% risk and making 1%. Like he has to be taking like 2.5, 3% risk.
Right. Right. Right.
Because it
Understood.
depends on what stage of life you are at.
Yeah.
है ना, आप उस स्टेज ऑफ लाइफ में कितना रिस्क अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं, व्हाट आर योर ऑब्जेक्टिव्स. क्या
Right.
मुझे सस्टेन करना है, क्या मुझे एक डिसेंट रिटर्न जनरेट करना है, या क्या मुझे अग्रेसिवली कंपाउंड करना है.
Right. Right.
बिकॉज पीपल से दैट ओ राकेश झुंझुनवाला बोलते हैं कि इफ यू गेट 15% योर किंग, इफ यू गेट 18% योर एम्पर, सम ऑल दोस थिंग्स. बट imagine that when he Rakesh Junjunwala was trading, he was trading at 200x leverage
Right.
in
Exactly.
his initial
That's the
stages.
difference.
So there is always a time and place for everyone to level up. And you only level up in those endeavors which you know that you have an edge over other competitors. For example, leverage सिर्फ trading में नहीं चलती है, leverage business में
हर
चलता है,
जगह,
leverage
of
real
course.
estate में चलता है, leverage even airlines में leverage चलता है, the one in the field in which you are in, right? Now,
Yeah.
who can take those leverage? People who understand the industry well, who understands every small nitty-gritties of that industry, and who feel that, bro, I have some minor edge that I can dominate the competition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So leverage, some people make it like, oh, leverage नहीं है तो पैसे नहीं बनेगा. And some people make it a evil, saying that, oh, leverage is too khatarnak, like you should always stay away from options. Like people, there are both extremes, but we don't have to be on these extremes. Like you have to be a rational thinking person at the center of that curve,
Yeah.
who says that I know that there is a time and place for leverage, and that time and place is very individualistic.
Yeah, I think it all boils down to, understanding your and developing a risk and RMS network, right? You need to manage your risk. Using the leverage is exactly why people trade options in the first place. But, if you have leverage, it's a good thing. But if you're levering up to the point where A, you're unaware how levered you are, and B, you're just mindlessly levering up just because you think you'll make more money. That's the point where you're
Correct.
sort of getting into dangerous territory. Like, okay, you could win this much, but you could lose everything almost. So that is like
Absolutely.
one of those things where then you get margin calls and all those, it becomes a messy situation. So, like you rightly
Absolutely.
said, there's no need for extremes.
Yeah, I mean, look at the stuff that happened over the currency market over the last few days.
Yeah, yeah,
Disastrous. Like how, I don't know, like how many people went bankrupt in that move.
yeah,
So there are always uncertainty. There's always some sort of a inherent risk, because when somebody is giving me premiums to sell, they are not fools to give me premiums for nothing, right? Like
yeah,
they are trying to offload their risk to me. So especially if
absolutely.
one is selling options, it means that you have to understand that the money is for the kind of risk that you're willing to take. Now you decide what kind of risk you're willing to take.
Right, right,
Let's say like
absolutely.
if I'm an insurance seller, I don't go and sell the same kind of premium for a 20-year-old guy, driving a Jaguar, and a 40-year-old guy driving a Swift Desire.
Right,
Correct? It's as simple as that.
yeah, absolutely. No, I like that analogy very much. But if we talk about your, so rightly so, you said that there's a lot more risk that's come up lately. One of them being, of course, the additional spikes. You see a lot more spikes intraday, and you also
Yeah.
see there's one more risk that's becoming more and more prominent now, which is the broker risk. So, do you use just one broker? Do you just have one broker at the moment?
No, like I have multiple brokers. Like I have a contingency broker where I have around 3 to 4% of my margin
Right.
as free cash there.
Got it. Got it.
So even on the day when the mid cap nifty thing happened, and it became a little big incident over Twitter,
Yeah.
I had another account where I could punch the counter
Opposite
trades and
orders.
to recoup
Right.
some of the losses.
Understood.
And it's like contingency management is a must, especially where you're in a business where your dependencies on third parties are
Exactly.
so much. We
Exactly.
have dependencies on internet service provider, you have dependencies on your electricity service provider, you have dependencies on brokers, you have dependency on your exchanges. So I have a backup for everything. For example, I'll give you what all the backups for all these things. For example,
Yeah.
I have a UPS for my entire house.
Yeah.
And now over on top of that, I have UPS for just this trading setup.
Right.
If the electricity goes out, then the main UPS kicks in. If that UPS also goes out, then this
the
UPS kicks
standby.
in. Redundancy. Similarly for internet connection, like I have redundant internet connections. And similarly for brokers, I have multiple brokers where I can take counter position in case one broker goes bust. Now, exchange का भी कर सकता है. How? Let's say now, fortunately, we have liquid options on both BSE and NSE. Let's say NSE gets into a glitch. Let's say मैं Nifty option trade कर. Like I have some naked puts that I've shorted on Nifty.
Yeah.
How do I mitigate that risk when the exchange goes down? I go into BSE and buy some Sensex put options.
Understood.
Equal notional.
That
so
makes sense.
Always try to have some sort of redundancy. And in spite of having all these redundancies, if something has to go down south, it will go down south.
Murphy's
law. What's that called? Murphy's law, is it?
Murphy's law, yeah, exactly.
Murphy's law. If something has to go wrong, it will go wrong. But we cannot be too pessimistic about life itself, because there is a probability that while walking on a footpath, you might be hit by a meteor. Yeah. That is also statistically possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But you cannot be building rules around such unlikely events.
Right. Right. It's all about tail risk, right? At the end of the day, how big is it? How fat is your tail?
Correct.
So one thing that you might find interesting actually that we're building at AlgoTest is we're building in a product called Open Broker. Essentially, Open Broker क्या करता है? So there's a lot of brokers and they all have their individual API integration documentation and all that stuff, right? With Open Broker, what you do is you just need to learn our AlgoTest integration documents, API docs. And after that, you can have any broker you want that you can just connect with our API and it can fire orders directly. All you need is to sign up on our platform. And otherwise, as long as you know our integration docs, any broker on the planet, at least in the country rather, you can just integrate and fire direct orders with. But taking it back to trading again, so there's two main things that I'd like to discuss here. First and foremost, if I understand correctly, like there's a lot of videos out there where you do your live trading on your own channel, on other channels. But if I have to break it down, essentially, you talk about having frameworks. There has to be a framework where you understand the meat of what's happening, and then you can build your own trading style out of it, right? So for you, if I'm not wrong, you will start off right at market open. You will have an initial view, and then you will try to, place trades according to that view and make changes on the basis of what happens in the market after that. Now, there was a few ways that you said that you'd make changes, for example, taking additional credit and stuff like that. So can you elaborate on, firstly, tell me if I said anything incorrect, and secondly, elaborate on how you adjust your position if something goes wrong? Because I remember you rightly said that if somebody watches you trade, they might get very confused because they're like, ये तो अब इसने ये बेचा, अब इसने वो बेचा, अब इसने ये square off कर लिया, यहाँ position add किया. But the idea is not for them to mirror exactly what you're doing. The idea is for them to understand the framework you're working in, and then uske baad to you're using your discretionary experience, your brain, right?
Correct.
So now, just explain.
The first thing about building a framework is understanding your own nature, right? So you have to understand what are you by heart. Like, are you a trend follower, or are you a non-directional kind of a person? First thing. And the second thing is how sensitive you are to the mark-to-market fluctuations. For example, there might be people who are trading with 20-30 lakhs and they're willing to take 50-60,000 rupees MTM fluctuations just like that. They don't react at all.
Right.
But let's say I have seen people like with 5 crore capital, like who are even scared of a 0.05% MTM fluctuations. That is 5 crore पे 25,000 रुपए भी ऊपर नीचे होता है, तो they're very sensitive to those kinds of MTM fluctuations.
Right.
Now, if you are too scared of, or if you're too sensitive to the MTM fluctuations, basically then you have to manage your positions aggressively.
Right.
If you're less sensitive to the MTM fluctuations, then you can trade the premise aggressively. For example, आपको लग रहा है कि market इस range के बीच में रहेगा, तो within that range you don't have to make any changes. हाँ, understand that. हाँ, top में मतलब थोड़ा fake out देने के time पे यहाँ पे आपका mark to market suddenly dip होगा, and then वापस फिर से center में आ गया तो फिर से mark to market increase होगा, नीचे एक fake out दिया तो फिर से mark to market dip होगा. You'll be able to handle those things pretty well because your tolerance for MTM fluctuations is extremely good. But on the other hand, someone like me who is very sensitive to MTM fluctuations, वो ब्रेकआउट होने से पहले मेरा 2 एडजस्टमेंट हुआ रहता है, वापस आ गया तो वो एडजस्टमेंट्स को रिवर्स करता हूँ, नीचे आ गया तो फिर से 2 एडजस्टमेंट करता हूँ, वापस आ गया तो आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट बाय डूइंग दिस आई विल बी giving away a lot of that theta into the delta adjustments. But that's completely okay because I'm trading my own psychology. I know that I cannot replicate someone whose MTM fluctuation का sensitivity मेरे से बहुत ज्यादा कम है. I am more sensitive to my MTM fluctuations, so I have to make those adjustments.
Right.
Right? So this is about thing. Now, when you have to build a framework, you need to understand that, okay, once you decide on a particular kind of a person you are, now everything, all the rules that you need to build is to protect your identity.
Right.
And trade in line with your identity. I always say, okay, like you don't trade the markets, you just trade your personality.
Yeah.
Right? Your trading systems are a reflection of your personality.
Correct.
I cannot give a trend following system to someone like who's not trend following by heart.
Right.
Might out of sheer will, he might be able to execute those systems twice or thrice, but suddenly later his personality starts kicking in. And he'll start to either cut his winners quickly or he'll start to not pull the trigger as well because he gets scared to even pull the trigger, or he starts to hold his losses more than he should. So all those things start to come up because people talk about trading psychology in a very हल्के manner में बात करते हैं कि trading psychology हाँ change कर सकते हैं and all that. It's not, because there's nothing called just trading psychology. It's your own human psychology. It's your own personal thing, right? It's like saying that अरे भाई तुम तो introvert हो, अरे practice करो 2 महीने में extrovert बन जाएगा. Doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It is the amalgamation of your years and years of living.
Right.
Now, the good thing is that you don't have to change your own psychology, but you can build systems to match your psychology.
Right.
Now, once you understand the game, right? Once you understand the game, you can pace your innings as per the game.
Right.
For example, ईशान किशन का बैटिंग स्टाइल अलग है, विराट कोहली का बैटिंग स्टाइल अलग है. विराट कोहली स्टार्ट्स ऑफ स्लो एंड पिक्स अप पेस इन इट्स 30s and 40s, but Ishan Kishan tries to go right off the bat, right off the first ball. किसी का पेस करने का तरीका, किसी कैसे बिल्ड करते हैं, एवरीथिंग इज डिफरेंट, बट एवरीथिंग इज अराउंड द सेम फ्रेमवर्क. फ्रेमवर्क क्या है? जितना हो सके उतना रन बनाना है ना. एक कॉमन ऑब्जेक्टिव रहता है एंड आपका साइकोलॉजी रहता है, उसके साइकोलॉजी की कंजंक्शन में एक फ्रेमवर्क बनता है. उस फ्रेमवर्क के अंदर आप जो भी कर सकते हैं कर सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, I go wrong at least 12 to 13 times in a day on an average. मतलब I make an adjustment thinking that the markets will go from here, but suddenly the markets reverse, so I have to reverse my adjustment as well.
Right.
Someone might get really frustrated whenever that thing happens twice or 4 times. But I don't get frustrated. That is my USP.
That's your edge.
That's my edge.
Yeah.
But I have my cons as well. As I said, within a small range also, like I try to over adjust and try to take excess control of my positions.
Right.
Sometimes it backfires. But
I say to high brokerage as well, right?
Yeah, I pay a decent amount of brokerage. Overall, like 15% of my overall profits goes into charges plus brokerage.
Right.
So there is always two sides of a coin. The flip side is this, but the positive side is that.
Right.
We talk about my smooth equity curve, but nobody talks about me sitting in front of the screen every day for 6 hours.
Right. Yeah, that is
the flip side of having a smooth equity curve. Somebody algo trader, he might have like choppy equity curve, but he is also making similar kind of returns. हाँ, मैं 80% return बना रहा हूँ, 3% drawdown पे, वो भी बनाएगा 80% return with 10% drawdown. But he has time freedom.
Right.
So there is no free money.
Yeah.
And the risk is not always from monetary perspective. There are different kinds of risk in life.
Absolutely. The opportunity cost is always varying for everybody.
The opportunity cost is always there. For example, let's say me instead of sitting in front of the screen for 6 hours, had I put my money in the algos, which is also returning the same kind of returns, but with some sort of a choppy equity curve, I could have done so many other things.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So people look at risk only from financial point of view. Very unidimensional way of looking at risk. Risk creeps up in multiple different dimensions.
Yeah. I like that holistic approach, honestly. Like that was very well said. And It's just a little bit on that point of, let's say if you had an initial view that the market will probably go up, you sold some puts, and then your view went wrong, right? So at what point, first of all, how do you define that your view went wrong? Do you wait for it to completely go wrong? So for example, if you wanted the market to stay at 40,000, it's going to be above 40,000. Do you wait for it to go below 40,000? Or let's say if it's at, 41.5 at the moment and then it dips to like 45, is that when you would, decide that, okay, now it's time to make an adjustment? Or is this something that's unquantifiable? Is this something that comes to you with muscle memory now at this point?
It's a very tricky question, Ayman,
Yeah,
because there is no one right answer to this.
absolutely.
How I look at discretionary trading is, let's say an algo.
Yeah,
Okay, let's talk about algo first, or a mechanical trader first. So
yeah,
he's getting inputs only from the market.
yeah,
मार्केट ये करता है तो मैं ये करूंगा, मार्केट ये करता है तो मैं ये करूंगा,
yeah,
right? For a pure discretionary trader, it's like an art.
right.
So we have three sources of inputs,
Mm-hmm.
which forms the decision making, whatever algorithm bata do, ya like that module bata do. The
Right,
decision making module in my mind is governed by three different inputs.
yeah,
One is market ka price action behavior plus wall behavior of options.
okay,
Like market might be coming down, but the puts might not be spiking as much as they should.
right, right,
The market might be hovering there, but both side options might be spiking. This is wall component of the options.
right,
Second thing is pure price action component. हाँ, यहाँ पे support के ऊपर चल रहा है, जब तक support नहीं breach होता है, like I should not be doing any adjustments.
right.
Now यहाँ पे this is a combination of price action and wall behavior. This is one input. The second input is my mark to market.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in green, I can withstand some amount of random wall pricing in the options.
Right,
But if I'm already in the red, my major goal is not to hit that risk tolerance for the day.
right,
The primary job of a trader, intraday trader, is try to avoid those, days risk as far as possible.
right, right,
Right now, the second input is my mark to market, how it's fluctuating, at what point of mark to market I'm in, whether I'm in cost to cost, whether I'm at +1%, whether I'm at +0.5%, or I'm -0.25%. कहाँ पे है उसके basis पे भी मेरा adjustments depend करता है. And
right.
the third thing is your own level of sync with the markets. Now, how well you are perceiving the market moves.
Yeah,
मतलब आपने adjustment किया, जैसे आप adjustment किया market उल्टा चला गया. Now, ऐसे 4 बार हो गया in the last 20 minutes itself. Now you understand it. Oh, I'm not in sync with the markets. Now, today is not the day for me to be gearing up.
right,
Think of it this way: a batsman comes on the pitch. He tries to swing first three balls. All three balls he misses,
yeah,
and two balls he hits the ball, but he times it badly.
okay,
And another ball he finds the fielder.
okay,
Now, the eighth ball he doesn't go for a big shot. He'll suddenly change his approach, saying that, bro, let me stay on the pitch for some more time. Let's sneak in the singles. Let's go into defensive.
correct,
A trader also has to build his entire day of trading like this.
understood.
When you know that, oh, most of your adjustments are going wrong, most of your trades are going wrong, you have to take a step back. You have to be defensive on that day.
Right, right, right,
So, three levels of input or three input feeds that I'm getting to a discretionary trader, and the decisions what we take within a set framework is based on the concoction of these three inputs.
right. Understood, man. That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like to trade the way you do, to trade with the sort of smoothness of the equity curve that you have, you probably need a decent chunk of capital so you can, quickly make adjustments. Right? Would I be wrong? Would I be correct to make that assumption?
Uh, Again, see, there are days where I commit my full capital right at the open,
Right,
depending upon the premiums. I know that, oh, the premiums are so good, I can go right in,
right,
full quantity all in right away.
right.
But there are some days till 12 o'clock I don't commit.
Got it. Got it. And you have
Now,
a framework to, sorry, go ahead.
so that's why I keep telling people, like, don't get caught up in the hows and whys.
Right,
Try to understand like what this guy is trying to achieve, like what this guy is trying to do. And if you understand the principle, all these whys and hows, they all fall in place.
yeah, got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. So if somebody is new to the market, right? Let's say somebody just comes up to you today, hey, can you tell me, I want to learn how to trade. I really want to trade, and I want to know how I can go about this the right way. We've all had our, individual trading journeys and how we got to this point. But how would you, so if you had someone to guide you when you first, came to this field, how would you guide somebody? What would you tell them to do? What would you tell them to read up and study about before they actually commit to, trading in the markets with their real hard-earned money that I've saved up probably for a while? How would you guide them?
Okay, excellent question. Uh, let's say like if I were a beginner now, how I do it right now is put 90% of your capital in the bank. Keep only 10% of capital with the broker.
Yeah.
Now, consider this 10% of your capital, okay, as the fee that you're willing to give to the market, and go into the mode of pure acceptance. ये 100% जा सकता है because I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Now, the primary goal is to make sure that you don't lose this. The secondary goal, while preserving this, you need to try and learn as many rules of the game as possible. You need to try and learn as many different trading styles as possible. When I say learn, not in depth, but at least understand sufficiently what goes on in one particular style of trading. हाँ, मैंने स्विंग का ब्रेकआउट ट्रेडिंग भी सीख लिया, इंट्राडे स्टॉक्स ट्रेडिंग भी कर लिया, सीपीआर यूज करके भी मैंने ट्रेडिंग कर लिया, फिबोनाची ट्रेडिंग भी कर लिया, देन आई ट्रेडेड नॉन डायरेक्शनल स्ट्रैडल्स ऑप्शंस भी कर लिया, एंड देन आई शॉर्टेड लाइक आईटीएम ऑप्शंस भी कर लिया, फ्यूचर्स ट्रेडिंग भी कर लिया, ऑप्शन बाइंग भी करके देख लिया. बट with all this experimentation has to happen with the primary goal of preserving the capital.
Right.
If this capital goes, don't worry, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
But don't do it with your full capital. Understand that everyone has to pay the tuition fee to the markets. Yeah. Now, how stingy you are in this entire process depends on your personality.
Right.
Right? Because there is no one such thing as, oh, only this strategy makes money or only this approach makes money. No, there are so many things. Unless you have tried fast bowling, unless you have tried spin bowling, unless you have tried wicket keeping, unless you have tried opening batting, tail end batting, slog over, death over batting, you don't know where you fit in exactly. And nobody else can come and tell you, bro, this is your place.
Right.
If you're letting somebody else come and tell you, ki bhai, ye tumhara jagah hai, it means that you are a submissive man.
Yeah.
You're not a thinker. You're not a clear thinker.
Right.
In order for anyone to take his own clear decisions, he has to first get his hands dirty.
Correct. Correct.
Now, whether you want to put your own money or you are a voracious reader who reads like pretty much everything and then puts his money, depending upon you.
Yeah.
Because I am a very utilitarian kind of a learner.
Right.
It means that if I want to learn something and if that has to stay in my mind, it has to provide me some sort of a utility. अगर मेरा पैसे दाव पे लगता है, my learning curve is too steep. My grasping power like goes up to the roof. But अगर मैं without any stakes, without much stakes, I don't learn as fast. So for me, it's imperative that I put some amount of money in the markets to trade so that I learn faster. That feedback loop is faster, like that iteration process is much faster, so that I can iterate on multiple things and fixate on something on which I'll double down later.
Makes sense.
There is no antidote to practice. First thing. And the second thing is there is no antidote to experience.
Yeah.
So you have to experience multiple stuff, but within a defined risk parameter. मतलब आपको ऐसे नहीं कि हाँ मैं ट्रेडिंग सीख लूंगा बट मैं लोन लेके भी मतलब सीख लूंगा, फैमिली का पैसे उड़ा के सीख लूंगा, ऐसे नहीं चलता. Whatever savings you have in that 10% ट्रेडिंग में डालो, जो भी सीखना है इस 10% के अंदर सीखना है.
Yeah. Correct.
Once you do that, you'll be at a much better place to take a rational decision on, okay, I think I can relate myself to trading like this.
Yeah.
People who join my mentorship program, they join because they try to relate to the kind of trading that I do.
Yeah.
Not because I'm generating profits.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There will be people who say that they relate and they simply lie just to get into the program. But later they realize that, oh, it's not doable for me.
Right.
Ho sakta hai, it's quite possible. But once you purely, truly understand your own nature and try to build systems in tune with your nature, then the magic starts to happen, I'd say.
Right. Understood, man. That's a lot of insight, honestly, to unpack for Anybody that's
No,
new.
I don't know. Like if a lot of the viewers will be able to appreciate this because everyone are strategy hunting, especially in the
Yeah,
Indian market.
that
है
is
ना?
true.
If I talk about personality, if I talk about leveraging your personality to develop your trading systems, सबका ऊपर से चला जाता है.
Yeah, yeah. No, honestly, I totally understand that point. But if you ever join our Telegram group, you'll see there's a bunch. We have obviously in the live market hours, we're there for our customers to support them if they ever need anything. But over there, one thing that I really appreciate is that one, everybody wants to help everybody else, even though it's not necessarily their duty, their job. Second thing is people seem to be very keen to genuinely learn. They just haven't been guided they've been misguided that hey ये strategy से तुझे 1000% return मिल जाएगा ये drawdown होगा 1% से भी कम होगा. That's the mentality they get drawn into. But the ones that eventually
And
realize
that's
I
kind of an inevitable path, Ariman. I'll tell you
yeah
something. Like you have learned this, right? Like you have to kiss 1,000 frogs before you meet your whatever. है ना?
absolutely
Like how many of the guys would have gotten their perfect partner in the first date itself?
absolutely yeah very little
And
if
we
any.
have to experiment. Like some people are not the
Yeah,
right fit for us. Some people are not, intellectually matching with our level of intellectuality. Some people have bad traits. Some people maybe we might not be a right fit to them. So there are so
yeah,
many things.
yeah,
And we
very
should
true.
not be saying that, oh, मैंने उनसे सीखा वो सेट नहीं हुआ तो वो बंदा स्कैमर नहीं ऐसा नहीं चलता.
Yeah,
Everything is
exactly.
experimentation. The whole life is experimentation.
Exactly, exactly. But I would say that our viewers really look forward to content like this based on the comments we get, the feedback we get. You're actually someone that, we've spoken many times about getting back on the podcast. We did our spaces like a year and a half ago now. So
Yeah.
honestly, even then we got a lot of, positive feedback and interesting questions. We never had a follow-up session. But most of everything that I'm asking you today is geared around the newbie trader that's just getting into trading and wants to understand how do I, dip my feet in the game in the right manner without going ballistic and without, being lured by fake PNL screenshots and all those things. So, um, honestly, man, like I really appreciate you doing this for us. I really appreciate you taking out time from your day to do this. I understand you have
Anytime.
a time constraint. So we'll just wrap it up with one final question that I really like to ask anybody that, I look up to, anybody that I sort of feel like, damn, they've really accomplished something. Everybody knows about your accolades. Everybody knows about, the insane risk adjusted returns that you make. But if I were to ask you in this entire journey, or if you want in life in general, whatever you'd like to reply, whether trading life or overall life, what is the biggest challenge that you faced in this entire period? Because we all know about your victories, but tell us the biggest challenge that you've had to face up until this point, life or trading, up to you.
Uh, when you put the word challenge, I don't see anything because I would look at it as हाँ ये तो एक opportunity है ना कुछ सीखने के लिए कुछ करने के लिए. Sometimes the biggest challenge is okay. For the sake of answering,
Yeah,
sometimes some of the one of the toughest things is like whenever I take a loss,
right,
the next day it is to muster the courage and come back and place the trades again.
right,
That's pretty hard because I'm very self overcritical about myself.
right.
One thing is it pushes you to excellence. That's the good part of being self overcritical. But the second thing is you'll always be kind of a little anxious about the next part. Like you always kind of ask yourself, are you good enough? Are you good enough? Are you good enough? And suddenly when market throws you a curveball and suddenly like you get clean bowled, the next time it takes a lot of positive self-talk saying that हो जाएगा.
Yeah.
So every time like I take a big loss, I kind of big loss in the sense जो भी है 1%. मतलब
Uh-huh.
लोगों को तो लगता है अभी भी 1%, but everyone's loss tolerance is different. So for me, like
Right.
whenever I take loss more than 1% or something, I try to get a little low,
Yeah.
okay, which
Yeah.
I shouldn't, but technically, but I do
You're a
because I
human
can't
being
control
after
who I
all.
am.
You're a human being
Yeah,
at the end of the
I
day.
can't control who I am.
Yeah.
And next day, when I have to place my first trade, there's a lot of hesitation.
Right.
So that's
Even at this stage, after trading for this long, making these
absolutely.
returns.
I was telling someone, okay, there's this one option buyer on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay. So that guy, he wanted to talk to me, and he also like asks all these kinds of questions. So basically, like
Yeah.
जो लोग continuously trade करते हैं ना, they tend to get a little philosophical.
Right.
They tend to equate the markets with general life, right?
Yeah.
So he started to ask, in spite of me doing so well, I always tend to get a little anxious about the future uncertainty.
Right.
Then I told him, it's a very good thing. Even athletes
Yeah.
have that level of insecurity and uncertainty with them.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I don't
Yeah.
know how this team is gonna turn out for me. I don't know how the next tournament is gonna be for me. And
Correct.
that level of uncertainty, that healthy fear, is what pushes them to be on their toes all the time.
Correct. Correct.
And a lot of good people, good athletes, they have fallen because they lost that healthy fear and they took the sport for granted.
Right.
So I know that I should be confident in punching the trades even after a loss making day, but I also understand that ये जो healthy fear है, it's keeping me on ground.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. That's very well said, dude. Honestly, this has been such a fun interaction and a very long time coming. But honestly, I can really relate to what you just said because when I first started trading, that always happened. Like, you make even a small loss. I started off with like a mere 10 lakh capital only. And you make a small loss, even if it's 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees. Next day, you're a little hesitant that, oh, wait, yesterday I didn't do so well. Should I do this again? I started off discretionary trading, of course, before I moved into algos, but I totally understand, and I'm sure everybody watching this will have that. Even if you're trading with algos, you're like, shit, my algo did really good yesterday, but last week it wasn't very good. Maybe should I tweak it now? Should I wait for the drawdown? Those things toy with you, and it's a very big misconception. I think that there is no emotions involved when you're trading algorithms. Yes, there's less emotions.
That's the biggest misconception.
Exactly. There's less emotions, maybe, yes, on an intraday basis, but when you sit down and if you actually care about your strategies and your portfolio, you're gonna see your P&L, you're gonna break it down to an absolute science, and you're gonna be like, shit, I'm really concerned about this, or this is good. There's a lot of emotion involved, and that's just a big misconception that button दबाया बीच में गए बस अपना पीना कोलाडा पी रहे हो सब बाकी पैसे मिल रहे हैं. I wish it was like that. I wish it was like that. But on that note, thank you so much, Praful, man, for coming on here.